joined today by two gentlemen who certainly have a love of this time of year and the bikes going around the course, but also certainly one of them of the Isle of Man itself.
Steve Solly.
So my name is Paul Oxborough.
Steve, how many times have you been to the Isle of Man?
Several times, probably too many to remember, actually. I am that old. So it's great to be back here. It's fantastic weather at the moment. Hope you keep this good weather, obviously, over the next couple of weeks.
Fingers crossed, because we are recording this in the week leading up to practice week. And as you said, glorious sunshine. We're not sure what's going to happen next week, but we want it to be good. When was your first time on the island? Do you remember?
My first time was quite recent, actually, 2013, and then pretty much regularly since then. Last time I was here was a couple of years ago with my wife. We had 3 weeks here over in Kirkmichael on a fantastic campsite and loved every minute of it. And then we had good weather as well. So.
And it's always TT, isn't it?
For that it has been, yes. But we do come off season quite a bit as well. We like to come in March and April, before the crowds get here, because you can look around just a little bit more and, it's a bit quieter and we really love it.
Yeah. But here mainly because of the bikes, I suppose,
we
really.
Are indeed. Yeah, we are indeed.
Yeah. So have you been biker all your life?
I have indeed. I've been a biker most of my life. I'm lucky my wife's also a biker, so we have that common interest. We both still ride. We both still ride Triumphs, so bikes is our main interest, yeah.
Now, you've come over with a friend.
I have, a very special one.
Yeah, do you want to introduce Paul for us?
I would,
then?
I'd love to. I've known Paul for just over 3 years now. He's an inspirational character. He's got a fantastic story and he's doing some great work with a really important charity, and I'd love him to tell you about it.
Well, he will. And Paul, it's lovely to have you here. First of all, welcome to the Isle of Man, we should say, because this is your first time.
Yeah, very first time. Steve promised it would be beautiful sunshine. He said it would be a beautiful island, and it's not let me down so far.
Oh, fingers crossed.
So nice.
Please don't let that change. Don't let that change.
It's got that bad. We decided we want to move here now, so...
Oh, brilliant. I love that. Visit Isle of Man will love that as well. Well, we're going to talk about the charity Mental Health Motorbike in a moment, but as Steve said, you've got quite an interesting story to tell. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my background, for probably the last 20, 30 years, I've been an international youth development worker. So I've travelled most of Europe working with inspirational young people, trying to make them more sort of international, more global, and creating more of a CV that they can be sort of proud of and promote. So we've done some really exciting projects.
And has that somehow led into you creating this charity?
Not really. I mean, I've been a biker for most of my life. I watched Top Gun in the 80s and my love for the GPZ900R Kawasaki was formed. And from that, I decided I wanted one of those motorbikes. So I passed my car test very quickly. But I just very, very quickly after that passed my motorbike test so I could get the GPZ900. But then I realised insurance existed and I was never going to afford one. Yeah, so I got this GPZ 600 on, and ever since I've just lived and breathed bikes.
I'm quite surprised then, having said that this is your first time to the Isle of Man. What with the TT? What have you made of it so far?
Yeah, it's very interesting because my wife's family, they've always been massive fans of the TT, and my father-in-law, who passed away nearly 3 years ago, came here frequently. My my brother-in-law came, and it was part of their annual ritual is to come and see the bikes. And it was always one of my wishes to bring and be here with my father-in-law, but sadly it didn't happen.
But now you've seen it, you've been around the course.
He's
what
with
do
me
you
in spirit.
think? Yeah, absolutely.
No, we've just driven the course, and I was thinking, it's absolutely my respect level for these guys. It's just because I've met a lot of the guys that are racing these circuits, and you see them on very sanitised racetracks, but it's not until you see the roads here and the changing environments and the twists and the bends and the bumps, you suddenly realise that these guys are living legends.
When they're going that quick on some of those different parts of the course as well, what were some of the parts that surprised you with that you thought, I want to come and watch from here?
I just think it was the pub. I just remember the pub. I can't remember the name. It was Craignabar. Yeah, we was in there, and it's just that run down the hill, and then all the way down to where the pub, and then round, and then you just flat out straight. Just cannot begin to imagine the atmosphere, when those bikes are thundering past. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just incredible. But it's just the changing, you go up onto the mountain, sort of sections, and it's just everything about it, and the village sections, and Yeah, the chicanes and the bends. It's just, it made my heart rate go faster just thinking. Because as I say, I've been a biker, but not necessarily a racing biker.
Mm-hmm.
But the thought of doing that, probably at 70 miles an hour, frightens me. But yeah, these guys are just amazing.
Several hundred miles an hour, which is just ridiculous.
3 times
it?
the speed that I would drive in.
Well, we talked about, obviously, you mentioned this charity. So this is Mental Health Motorbike. So tell us how this came about and why you thought it was important.
So it came out with a sad story, really. I lost my friend Dale in 2019. He was such an amazing guy. I'd known him since he was 11 years old, and when he reached 38, he decided to end his life. So, we made a promise. I made a promise to Dale's family at the funeral that we would do something to try and stop this, other families having to go through this heartache. Because I don't know how much people know, but on average, 123 people are affected by a single suicide. That's some research I think Mind did. They were sort of saying the reach of suicide. One suicide goes very, very deep into a community. So we thought long and hard. You wake up in the morning and think, what am I going to do? I've made a big promise here. And I thought I've got to do something that I'm passionate about, and I've always been passionate about bikes. But I've also seen the struggle that a lot of biker friends have gone through. So I thought, let's combine the two, because I know what happens when another biker meets another biker. They talk about bikes for 5 minutes, and then they're chatting about everything. So, when you're struggling to get men talking, the bike becomes a very powerful tool to make that happen, So the charity was established 2020, and it was November 2021 before we became a national charity. And so we went all the way through COVID. We did so many exciting things during COVID using online tools, because at the time, Zoom was coming online and Teams, and so we thought, rather than put the charity on hold, let's use those tools to do some online stuff. And the community started to grow, but we also started to train people in mental health first aid. So we thought, let's try and get 150 bikers through their mental health first aid training, which we could do online. We got a fabulous trainer, Andy Elwood. He was just an amazing guy. He was ex-search and rescue, sort of battlefield paramedic, so he was like the dope on the road that they lower down from the helicopters. So he helped us train 150 mental health first aiders. And the ripple effect of that was just massive. We started to hear stories of how bikers were using it with their family members. They were using it with their work colleagues and, sort of friends. So we thought, this is amazing. So let's train 1,000 bikers with no funds. So that's the target we set, and we're very, very close now to hit that target of 1,000 trained mental health first aiders. And then they come on board with us as a volunteer, and the national network has been set up.
Gosh, that's incredible. What an achievement. And what a legacy for your friend as well. When you think back down, think, this all happened because of that, and now look at the difference you're making. It must really sort of touch you, that, just thinking of the effect.
Yeah, I think that the greatest thing that's come out of that is the ability to work with Dale's wife and daughter. Dale was a very complex character, and he became a vet. And the method that he used was to euthanize himself. I know this is probably not fit for really broadcasting things, but yeah, it happens so much. I think suicide is the single biggest killer of men in the whole of the UK, and what we've actually got is a unique tool that we can use, and that is the motorbike. So we use the mental health first aiders, the training that they've done, and we take the training to the bikers. So one of the things that we do is a lot of events. So I think last year we did 202 face-to-face events across England, Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales. And this year it's been amazing. The start to this season, I think we're averaging 11 events a week at the moment.
Wow.
And it just means that we're out there with our first aiders, with the first line of contact. We can get people talking, we can help form an action plan of support, and we can get people to a doctor. In cases we've got people to hospitals, but more than anything, a lot of people are dealing with social isolation. So just the fact that they've got somebody they can talk to that's not judging them, they're not going to be ignored, they're not going to be laughed at, It just works.
And like you said, that common ground as well with the bikes, it's a way in, isn't it? It's a way to start a conversation.
Yeah, we all laugh at each other. What bike are you on? And I always get the mickey taken out of me because I'm on a BMW GS Adventure, the Satan's bike. It's the bike that every old man sort of tends to drive. And yeah, but I love that bike. I bought one for the charity, and it's just been the main. It started off as the original mental health motorbike, and it goes everywhere still. It's just one of those. And we get stopped on it now. People see the stickers, they see the badges on there, and we physically get people coming to us and saying, "Can I get some help?"
Oh, wow.
So it is a strange thing.
What an impact. That's, such a difference you are making to people, saving lives, essentially, I suppose.
It is. We get a lot of stories because people tell us their stories. 6 months down the line, we get some very heartfelt stories, and we did a few podcasts, and what we actually got was, rather than me just talking, we actually got some of the end users to talk about their stories and how the charities moved them forward and helped. And I think that's a very sombering thing to sit and listen to, when you see just how important this charity is. And I think that's the thing. It's not complicated. It's not overcomplicated. It does what it does on the tin. We have a very simple strap line. When life gets tough, we are here to listen, to support, and to ride. Those three things in that combination means that we can look after each other.
Do you know, Steve, I can see why you said that Paul was an inspirational person. I mean, it's incredible listening to him, the passion he has for this.
It is, and like most friendships in life, or a lot of friendships in life, not most, our relationship came out of, a very sad situation towards the end of 2022 in the British Superbike paddock after a tragic accident at Donington Park. I learnt that there were some marshals who, needed somewhere to go, something to turn to, someone to listen. And I was active in that paddock at the time, and I'm still active helping North Gloucester road racing. And I knew that there was no real support for, the Orange Army. So my wife had a card at the bottom of her handbag that she scrambled around. One day we were on holiday in Tenerife. I was sat on a sunbed and I thought, I'm just going to ring this guy and see what he can do. And I rang him, and from that moment on, he provided help. People got support. Throughout the next few months, we managed to get over 50 marshals trained in mental health, first aid, to expand the network into the sporting scene. And we were careful to get, the club scene well represented. We were careful to get people trained who we knew would come over here to the TT and work, which is why we're here now. So that network spread very quickly, and it's alive and working and supporting now. So, why have we come this time? Well, this is the single biggest motorcycle sporting event in the world, the Glastonbury of bikes, whatever you want to call it. And I became a trustee only a few weeks ago, and with the charity, and I just thought, why are we not there? We've got to be there. So hence I wrote to you, bought Paul, showed him around. We operate via several regional coordinators who are responsible for pulling these one-to-one events together. And we our aim going forward from here is to have somebody on the Isle of Man, who lives here the whole time, to come forward and work with us as a regional coordinator, so that come the TT26 we can have a proper presence here. And that's the main reason we're here now. And I think it didn't take me long to show Paul around the island before he agreed with me.
It makes sense, really, doesn't it, for so many reasons, to be honest, Paul?
One of the things, the regional coordinate network is such a central spine that runs through the charity. At the moment, we've got 21 regions in the UK covered. If we was working to full capacity, we'd have 53 regions. So we're working, hopefully by Christmas, we'll be at 30 regions. So we're growing gradually. But those volunteers are just absolutely fabulous. We give them a bit of autonomy to develop whatever's relevant for the community and area that they're working in. And some of the stories that come out of that is just fabulous. And what my job is to make sure they've got the resources, they've got the tools, they've got the training to actually get on and do the job. And I'm very fortunate now that I'm not doing all of these events. They're doing them for me, and I can go out and visit and look at just building them up a little bit more. So that's been a very exciting development for the charities, just growing. The size of it is growing. But what we don't want to lose is that grassroots feel. It is so important that bikers can connect to who we are, because we're all bikers. We've done that little bit of extra training. We've got a little bit more sort of understanding to tune in to mental health struggles. But, we all share that same passion and love of bikes, and that's what glues us all together.
So what then does it take? What sort of person do you need to be able to become one of these mental health first aiders?
Yeah, so first aider, anybody can do it. As a charity, we would encourage you to look at the website. And, I mean, the course itself is a £400 course, but what the charity does is raise money so that we can make that course affordable. So we only charge £50. And we did take a decision not to give it away for free, because you get more dropout on the course if you give something for free. People don't own it as much. So we thought £50 is a reasonable amount for a good course, And I think once you've done that, it just gives you that confidence to start to engage in that discussion. Ask the difficult questions. If somebody's in a crisis or borderline crisis, ask them, are you at risk of harming yourself? Because if you are, we're going to get you to a doctor. We're going to get you to a hospital. We're going to get you some support. And I'm not going to leave you until we've got that in place. So we'll work with them to look at their family network. We'll look at their friendship groups. We'll look at getting appointments set up with them. We've even sat with them to actually script letters so that they know what to say. So we'll sit with them. They'll tell us what it is they're dealing with. We'll create a letter to their doctor, and we'll allow them to take that letter and ask the doctor to read it. Because very often when people go to the doctors for the first time, they don't eloquently describe what it is they're dealing with. So the doctor will say, you all right? And they'll say, oh, yeah. But they're not all right. They're really sort of melting inside. So our job really is to make sure they accurately describe what it is they're going through, so that the doctors and the hospitals can give them the right support.
That's the thing, isn't it? Because when you're feeling something, one of the hardest things in the world to do is vocalise it.
Especially men. We grow up in an environment where you're taught to be tough and not show your feelings. And as I say, I've said this a number of times, I grew up in Sheffield and Rotherham in South Yorkshire, and that was when all the steelworks were shutting down and the mines were shutting down, and there was a lot of very tough men that were really struggling. They were really finding things difficult. But the way that they dealt with it at the time was to go and drink too much and have a good fight on a Friday or Saturday night. That is not the way to deal with a mental health problem, so what we want them to do is actually get professional help. And sometimes it's not always about medication. Sometimes people find alternative routes. So one of the things that we're doing a lot of within the charities, we will work with people on a one-to-one. And if we think it's appropriate, we'll give them like an 8-week mindfulness training. So we have mindfulness trainers within the charity, and they can run the courses for us. And what you find is that gives people such powerful coping strategies. So when your brain's at 3 o'clock in the morning running wild and your thoughts are out of control, we will actually use that mindfulness training to bring it back down. And then suddenly you're fast asleep again and you're not stressing. And it's just really important that sometimes it is not about the medication all the time. It's about finding the right pathway of support, really.
And actually, I suppose you could argue as well, Steve, that, we're talking about bikers here, and of course one of the things you can do is go out and be amongst nature on your bike. The green and the blue can help as well.
I mean, that's something we promote really hard, the benefits of biking. The mindfulness benefits of getting out on a bike, whether you're on your own or whether you're with friends. It's just good for you. And we're also conscious that, the TT Festival fortnight is, the pinnacle of a lot of people's year, and they live every day for that ferry ride over to the island, and then they have got a fortnight of fantastic sport. But then it stops, and then they go home, and then they hit the low, and they're looking forward to coming back here. But that's a long way off, So, we're there and we're here in the meantime. A lot of people on the island get left when everybody goes home. So, we want to have a presence here. We want to help support people here on the island as well, which is why we want a local regional a coordinator. And just to get out and get into the community and just talk to people and be there for support, ride with people, chat, help. It's simple, really.
And you must have met some fascinating people because, of course, there's the commonality with the biking. Obviously, that's one thing. But people will be coming from all different types of backgrounds, I'm assuming.
We did a little study on our online. So we have a 24-hour online peer support group. So that's run by 21 volunteers. 24 hours a day that runs. And our mission with that group as a moderator is to keep it safe, somewhere safe that people can come and just open up. They can have a good old rant. They can have sort of a bit of a chinwag. And we actively encourage, I think at the moment we've got 4,000 bikers on there currently getting support.
Wow.
But the idea is that if you've got through a similar issue that the person is dealing with, to try and help them. So we keep it safe, we make it non-judgmental, we make sure that nobody's laughed at, and the moderators do an amazing job on there. But what we find with that group is just so many stories come out. That group, people have said that group has kept them alive over the last 5 years because sometimes they go to a doctor and they need some therapy or counselling. They could be waiting 2 years for that to come through. So in the meantime, that's when people could become very vulnerable. So we pick them up at that stage, get them onto that group. And it's fascinating. It could be 3 o'clock in the morning. Somebody puts, I'm really not coping, I'm really struggling. And by 3:15, there's been 5, 6, 7, 8, sort of comments. You sort of think, why aren't you asleep? And our team then pick it up in the morning and start to engage with that person, and we can do, if things are really bad, we can take people off that space and give them the one-to-one support that they need. Yeah, so we literally we asked people to share, what is your job title, what do you do? And I think something like 200-300 people then started to list all the different jobs. And we had, professors, we had teachers, we had dentists, we had every single profession out there. And we were sort of thinking that is the spider web that goes out into a community. They're bikers on a weekend, but during the rest of the week, they're out doing these amazing sort of jobs. And we find there's a lot of people that give back to the charity. So for example, if we need legal advice, we get pro bono legal advice. We get sort of therapists come in. We've got a trauma therapist that really helped out with the recent BSB stuff at Alton Park. So we was able to support a couple of the riders then with some immediate trauma support. But that is all people that come to us and say, we will do this with you for free.
Amazing stuff. It really is. And I suppose that's also proof, isn't it, Steve, that, mental health issues affect everyone and anyone. It doesn't matter what your background is. It could look like you've got, the best life in the world to the person next door, but actually you could be struggling. Absolutely.
Couldn't agree with you more. And we focus on the biking community because that's about as much as we can reach at the moment. But, it's not restricted to that community at all. Anybody who needs help can talk to us, and we'd welcome them in open arms. So
it's a two-pronged approach really for the charity, I suppose. You're reaching out to anyone who might want support, but also you're reaching out to people who might want to come on board and learn the sort of trade to actually help.
That's very important because we have to have people within the charity who can in turn help others. So, you reach out for help. We give you the help. Hopefully you get well enough to do some first aid training and then you're able to help others. And of course that makes you feel better, gives you more confidence, and then it grows from there. So it's a fairly simple strategy, but it's phenomenal to watch in action. I mean, I've only been a trustee for 2 months now, and it's amazing. I mean, the place is full of phenomenal people like Paul, and I just recommend anybody in trouble to reach out to us.
So how do they reach out to you, Steve?
Well, they reach out to us.
So the best way to reach out and make initial contact with us is through our website. So the website is www.mh, M for mother, H for hotel, motorbike.com. So mhmotorbike.com, or on socials we tend to be at mhmotorbike.
And if someone's listening and they're thinking that actually right now they are struggling, what would you say, sort of an immediate quick bit of advice? What would you suggest?
I would suggest going to the website, scrolling down underneath the logo, there's a big red button on there and it says join support group. There's a number of tick boxes that you have to fill out, a number of questions. What we're looking for is your connection to motorbikes. So you might not be necessarily a rider yourself, you might be somebody that's supporting a partner who's a biker. And we're actually finding we're supporting more family members more and more as we're growing as a charity, because very often, the husband or the wife on the bike is struggling to reach out themselves. So we're getting their partners to reach out. We can give them support so that they can get their husband or wife to a doctor. So I would suggest joining the peer support group is a very good starting point.
Well, it's wonderful to talk to you both, I have to say. Thank you so much for being with us. And hopefully, are you going to be able to be here for TT, Paul? Or are you going to...
Unfortunately, not this year, but I'm going to... We was having a discussion about who should come back to support the new regional coordinator. We're moving
Was it a discussion, though?
No, not really, because I'm coming over.
It's got to be done. It's got to be done. Yeah. All right, so Paul, you mentioned a regional coordinator. You're actually on the lookout for someone.
Yeah, so the regional coordinators, we've got a very diverse group within Mental Health Motorbike, and one of the most exciting things about the charity is its diversity. So we have 37% of our group is female riders. Women are really rocking biking at the moment in so many different ways. So we've got a strong presence on the board of trustees, who are bikers. We've also got some tremendous regional coordinators that are female. But one of the other things, we've got a strong LGBTQ plus community as well within the bikers, and we're training a lot of people in mental health first aid. I don't think there's necessarily a link, but I think it's when you're dealing with some of the complex issues around these issues, people do probably need a little bit of extra support. So the charity's been very good for that. But I think if you're considering being a regional coordinator, the sorts of skills we're looking for is a bit of organisation. We want a bit of strategy. So if you're quite a strategic person, you're good at sort of pulling teams together. Yeah, you're good with people, really. I think you would fit in very well with the charity. And what we say to people, we start off small. We don't expect you to be doing this as a full-time job. We will work with you to action plan about what you think is realistic. And it could be that you do three events and 3 presentations a year, and then we grow it from there onwards. So every single regional coordinator does things slightly different. We will empower you and we will give you the tools and training to do this properly. And I think once you join the family, it is a very infectious family. The Mental Health Motorbike family is just growing and it is rocking motorbikes.
So would you mind then giving out your contact details so if someone wants to be a regional coordinator, they can get in touch with you?
So what I would recommend is if you wish to be a regional coordinator, you can contact the charity at info@mhmotorbike.com. Just make a note that you're interested in becoming a regional coordinator. And just tell us a little bit about who you are, and why you think you might be good at that role. And then what we do, we tend to, sort of go through a short interview process, and we'll find the most amazing person that will take on this role. But it is a very big ambition of ours that this time next year we're going to be working with a team that's based on the island.
Oh, everything Crossway. I'm sure it will happen because you've certainly got the drive and the passion and determination. It's going to happen, I am sure. What are you going to do with the rest of your time on the island then? Where are you taking him, Steve?
Well, we've done an entire lap of the island and we've had a look through Douglas. So I don't think we can leave without going to Peel, can we, really?
I mean, of course, it's the best part of the island.
I know. So I'll feel the journey over there before we stop driving for the day and have a bite to eat. So, it's fantastic, though. And to see the reaction from someone who's never been here before is just as rewarding. Yeah,
it makes you fall in love with it all over again, doesn't it? It really does. Thank you so much again.
Thanks
and it's excellent
us.
work you're doing, and please carry on doing it because obviously it's making a huge difference to people out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up to date with Manx Radio's dedicated motorsport website, motorsport.manxradio.com, your one-stop shop for news, travel, road closures and racing schedules. You can also step into Manx Radio 1368's 60-year motorsport archive, including interviews with your favourite riders, race highlights from yesteryear, and our collection of motorsport videos and podcasts. Motorsport.manxradio.com, the home for motorsport on the Isle of Man, from the best biking station in the world, Manx Radio 1368.